Ukrainian and Russian forces have been entrenched in intense battles in the eastern Donbas region as Moscow marks the anniversary of Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941. The Day of Remembrance and Sorrow is also commemorated in Ukraine and neighbouring Belarus. On the ground, Russia continues to launch brutal attacks. A series of airstrikes has hit Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv. It is the worst attack to this area in weeks, where residents had just about returned to normal life. Kyiv says the city is being targeted as a distraction in order to draw Ukrainian forces away from the main battlefields in the east and south. The signs of Ukraine fighting back on Russian soil. A fire broke out at an oil refinery in Rostov, just a few kilometers from the border of Ukraine's Luhansk region. Moscow claims the site was struck by a Ukrainian drone. Kieran McQuillan has more from Lviv. Kieran, these protracted battles in Luhansk, how are Ukrainian forces holding up?
Well, those Ukrainian forces have been hunkered down in two key cities, which are on the east and west bank of the strategically important Donetsk River. That's the city of Lysychansk on the west bank, and on the east bank, Severodonetsk, which now has a ever-vanishing parcel of land controlled by Ukrainian forces there in the Azot chemical plant. And we've been reporting on this for days. Overnight, Serhiy Haidai, he's the regional governor, he said that 568 civilians are holed up alongside the Ukrainian forces that are fighting battles there with the Russian forces. They're throwing everything that they can at this, howitzers, airstrikes, mortar, everything that they can to try and dislodge those Ukrainian forces on that side of the river. All the bridges are down between the east bank and the west bank, and the city of Lysychansk, incredibly strategically important. It occupies higher ground there and is more easily defensible, but there has been a Russian push from the south. Overnight, the Ukrainian General Staff saying that the villages of Marna Dolina and Pilitsny, which are 7 kilometers to the south, have now fallen into Russian hands. President Zelensky did say that in the last few days that the Russians would intensify their campaign down there in the Luhansk region as we approach 3 very important and significant summits in Europe in the coming week. That's the G7 next week, the European Union summit, but perhaps most importantly of all, a NATO summit in the city of Madrid, which will start the accession process for 2 countries which have avowedly been neutral so far, who now want to join NATO, Finland and Sweden.
And now Kharkiv, which was relatively peaceful, has been drawn back into the conflict, with some observers saying the reason for that is as a distraction.
Yes, that could be the case, Jill. President Zelensky did mention this in an address to a global forum in recent days, and we have seen 15 people now killed, according to the regional governor, overnight in shelling. So it does look like there's an intensification of a campaign by the Russians who previously to this, it looked like the Ukrainians had forced the Russians right back to the border. You may remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a symbolic Ukrainian border post was established right up at that Russian front line. It now looks like the Russians are now pushing into this city of 1.5 million people, and it must come as a bit of a surprise to them and maybe a little bit of unease that the Russians are now starting to create an offensive against them after a period of relative calm.
As always, many thanks, Kieran McQuillan, reporting from Lviv.